first few years of life, children are busy learning, growing and exploring the world, and it can be confusing to keep up with all the milestones of speech because there are so many. So Mel, can you tell me what are some of the major developmental milestones when it comes to speech and language?
There are a lot.
There are a lot.
So look, I guess the main ones that we tend to talk about in terms of being flags for parents, number one is if they're not sort of engaging and interacting, I guess by that 12-month mark, then that's a bit of a red flag. So kids should be, even if they're not talking yet, looking at you, engaging you, annoying you.
Yeah. Wanting your phone.
Wanting your attention.
Yes.
So if that's not happening by 12 months, then that's definitely something worth investigating. Generally speaking, I guess in terms of more speech and language milestones, most kids have got their first word by around that 12-month mark. Mm-hmm. And so that's nice.
Mum, dad.
Yeah, and so I guess that's a little bit even before then. So that we're kind of looking at that as terms of babbling and playing with sounds, but it's that first kind of with intent, mum.
Yep.
That kind of signals that first word, if that makes sense. So sometimes you can, are they saying mum? But it's possible that they're just babbling and playing with sounds. But then they'll look at you and go, mum, and you go, oh,
that is the
yes,
picture of the first
mum.
word. Yes. It's always a competition, isn't it? Who's going to be first, mum or dad?
I was mum for my son.
I was mum too. Yeah.
Haha. Okay, and then by 2, most kids are combining words. So in between that 12 months and 2, they're getting more single words. By 18 months, they should have at least 20, hopefully more than that, around 50, getting up to closer to 100 when they're 2, and starting to combine words. 3 and up, you're starting to get into longer sentences, starting to add complexity and that kind of thing. And then I guess the other sort of thing to look at is in terms of the speech production. So they might be saying a lot of words, but they're really hard to understand. So generally we have a nice simple rule. Generally by 2, sort of they should be able to be understood at least half the time, usually by someone unfamiliar to the child. So childcare teachers or grandparents, as opposed to mum, who is usually pretty good.
We decipher everything.
By 3, it should be about 75% of the time. By 4, it should be about 90% of the time.
Wow.
So if your 4-year-old is coming home from kindy and the teachers are saying, oh, I really don't know what they're saying, then that's kind of, they're not meeting that milestone. So it's worth getting it investigated, because by then they should have most of the sounds. And yet there's still absolutely some errors going on, but not enough to stop you from understanding what they're trying to say.
Interesting. So at what age should children be saying their first words then? So you said 12 months?
Yeah. And there's a range of normal for all of these developmental milestones. So if your child's 13 months and they haven't got a word yet, then that's not time to bring out the panic button. So there's a range of normal, and I guess what speechies look at is most kids have got it in this window. We're kind of worried about that sort of 10% or so at the bottom. Mm-hmm. So we don't start to panic until most of other kids of that age have got it. So that would usually be, if you've got an 18-month-old who's only got 1 or 2 words, then I think that's absolutely worth investigating.
Okay.
So there's a range of normal, but usually we're pretty generous and only kind of focus on those bottom ones.
There you go. So what are some signs that indicate that your child may need to see a speech pathologist then?
Yeah, well, I guess not meeting those milestones is generally a first point. I'm a firm believer of sort of parent intuition, and parents often have that sense that something's not right, and even if they can't quite figure out what it is. There was some really interesting research actually that said that it followed sort of parents who did sort of refer to speech pathology, but they found that parents generally only tended to act on that concern if it was seconded by someone else in the child's life. So generally a GP or a kindy teacher and that kind of thing. So I guess it shows that parents generally know, but they're not always brave enough to act on it.
No.
And that can delay that process. I know GPs sometimes can take a bit more of let's just wait and see approach. But it delays that early intervention, and if we can get them where they need to be before they hit school, then that's always better. Ideal.
So if you've got that mother's intuition kicking in, listen to it, okay, and push to get what you need to help your child, because you're right, we often do ignore that little voice and think an expert has more knowledge than us, and we put it off, and it does, then it can take years to catch up then, instead of it getting sorted nice and young. So speech development isn't an overnight thing, and it continues throughout early childhood. So from babbles to complete stories, your little one will soon be talking your ear off forever. So, but if they're not, or if you have any questions about your child's speech development whatsoever, don't hesitate to contact Mel and the team from Coastal Kids Speech Pathology today.